We thank you, worship team, again. Today we're going to take the Lord's Supper soon. And the subject that I have on my heart to share with you today is about the criminal. The criminal, one of the two criminals that was crucified together with Yeshua, and the one that repented just a few hours before he passed away. It was his last chance, his last day. What a testimony. What did he see? What did he hear that caused him to repent? And we'll take then some principles to our lives. Let's begin with Matthew 27. And we'll read from verses 32 to 44. I'm going to read that whole passage. It'll be the main passage. And also afterwards in Luke. Parallel passages. Matthew 27. From verse 32 until 44. And as they were coming out, they found a man of Cyrene named Simon, whom they pressed into service to bear his cross. And when they came to a place called Golgotha, which means a place of a skull, they gave him wine to drink mixed with gall. And after tasting it, he was unwilling to drink. And when they had crucified him, they divided up his garments among themselves by casting lots. And sitting down, they began to keep watch over him there. And sitting down, they began to keep watch over him there. And above his head, they put up the charge against him, which read, "This is Yeshua, the King of the Jews." And at that time, two robbers were crucified with him, one on the right and one on the left. And those passing by were hurling abuse at him, wagging their heads, and saying, "You who are going to destroy the temple and rebuild it in 3 days, save yourself. If you are the Son of God, come down from the cross." And in the same way, the chief priests also, along with the scribes and elders, were mocking him and saying, "He saved others. He cannot save himself. He is the King of Israel. Let him come down now from the cross, and we will believe in him. He trusts in God. Let God rescue him, if he delights in him. For he said, 'I am the Son of God.'" The robbers who had been crucified with him were also insulting him with the same words. So let's get in a little bit today to this perspective from the eyes of this same worthless man, this criminal, one of the two criminals, the same one who later repents. We see here that in verse 44, and also the robbers who had been crucified with him were insulting him with these same words. In the beginning, they both are laughing at him. Both of them are cursing him. They are mocking him. Why? So let's think for a moment. These same two criminals were there on the cross because of the bad things they had done. Maybe they murdered somebody. Maybe they stole something. They had a good reason why they got the death sentence. They themselves later testified to this. The same one says, "We're here on the cross because of the righteous judgment, what we deserved." But what was Yeshua's guilt? It was written above him, "The King of the Jews." So that same criminal who was crucified with him said to himself in the beginning, "What is this nonsense? I'm here because I stole something, I murdered somebody, but this is the King of the Jews? What, he didn't do anything, and he's here on the cross. What, is he crazy? Why did he get in trouble with the Romans? But the Romans don't want somebody to be the king. They aren't going to put up with things like this. That's like some kind of rebellion. Look, why do you do this?" He doesn't understand it. It's some kind of nonsense to die for that and to suffer this horrible thing for this. And while he's still hanging there on the cross, he hears and he sees all of those who gathered around, and all of them are mocking Yeshua. He sees the highest level of leadership in the people, the high priests. Later, he begins to think about this. What? It's the evening of Passover? The high priests are here? But we'll get to that in a minute. But he sees those high priests, and he sees those scribes, and he sees the elders, all of those respected people standing there as a choir, mocking him and cursing him, blaspheming him. They see the crowds of people, verse 39 and 40. I'm going to read it again. And those passing by were hurling abuse at him and wagging their heads, shaking their heads. And they said, "You are going to destroy the temple and rebuild it in 3 days." No, he didn't. That's a lie. He didn't say anything about that. He said he was talking about his body. But anyway, they said, "Save yourself. If you're the Son of God, come down from the cross." And so this leadership, the crowds of people, they're mocking him. Those two criminals on the right and on the left are mocking him. And in Luke chapter 23, verse 36 and 37, Luke 23, verse 36 and 37, it says that the Roman soldiers also mocked him. And the soldiers also mocked him, coming up to him, offering him sour wine. And they said, "If you're the king of the Jews, save yourself." So that's what he saw. That's his first exposure. That's the situation. But not just that. He sees also how the Roman soldiers are taking Yeshua's clothes. And they begin to divide it among themselves. Yeshua's hanging on the cross, looking down, and this criminal looks down. He sees the soldiers with their weapons, and they did their job. They crucified them. Now they just need to guard them. And then they start passing out Yeshua's clothes. First, it means that they undressed him. They don't care that he's naked. They don't care about the humiliation. They don't care about anything else, but they're busy. Who gets this piece of cloth? Who gets that piece there? And so they pass out the robe, and they're busy with it. Evidently, it was a precious robe, an expensive robe. It was all sewn in one piece together. I'm imagining that it was a long strip of cloth, and there's a hole for the head. So you put the hole in the head in the middle, and all on the side. It's all one whole piece that was sewn together. And they say, "Oh, it's too bad. We shouldn't cut it. It's hard for us to get into this kind of head." We see a person who was killed in an accident or in a explosion. Nobody's going to say, "Hey, let's take off his shirt and steal it." We've got cupboards exploding with clothes today. Who deals with that today? But then it was different. Then everything like this they had made by hand, from rolling the threads from the wool of the sheep and to make it into and weaving it together. It was a lot of work. So they're dealing with this and deciding to cast lots. So they try to get into this thoughts. Maybe they were 4 soldiers there, taking 4 pieces of wood maybe, and one of them they break, and one of them is shorter, and they hold it like this, and each one pulls his stick, and whoever gets the short stick wins. So they begin and they argue about it, and they're all busy with it, and they're pulling it out. One got it, I got it, yeah, I won, I get the piece of cloth. If Yeshua was a regular person and seeing this, what would he feel? What would we feel? How would we feel about this? They crucified me, these wicked Romans, and they're taking my clothes. I want to curse them. I don't want to say the words now, but angry. It's an injustice. It's wickedness. We hate them. They're taking my clothes. And suddenly he hears This criminal, here's Yeshua say, Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. Forgive them? What? Who is this? How can you pray, Father, forgive them? How can you pray that? What kind of thing is that? What's going on here? Something is beginning to break and to crack. Something's beginning to cause him to think. Up until now, he laughed at Yeshua like all the others. But forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. And he hears this prayer. And then it begins to think, wait. Why are all the leaders of the people here? It's now already in the afternoon. And pretty soon it's going to be Passover. Don't they have something else to do? But every time when the Romans crucified somebody, the high priests don't come here, and the scribes don't come, and the elders don't come, and all of the leadership, they don't come and take the time. This is Passover. You got to clean out the leaven. You got to get ready. What are they doing here? Why are they all here? No, something here is not normal. The King of the Jews, maybe there really is something else going on. Forgive them? What's going on here? And then, in the Gospel of John, chapter 19, verse 26 to 27. John 19, verse 26 and 27. We read, and when Yeshua saw his mother and the disciple whom he loved standing nearby, he said to his mother, Woman, behold your son. And then he said to the disciple, Behold your mother. And from that hour, the disciple took her into his own household. He's crucified there. He's hanging there. And he sees Mary and the other women standing there weeping. And John, the disciple that he loved, they're standing there. They're in pain. They're confused. Their beloved Lord is hanging, naked, humiliated, weeping, deep bleeding. And he sees the suffering of Yeshua. This criminal didn't have a crown of thorns on his head. They hadn't beat his face like they did to Yeshua. Like the evening before, like they did to Yeshua. This criminal did not get beat with whips that ripped his flesh, and now he's naked, and they see all of those cuts from the whip that had torn his skin. Yeshua is suffering a lot more than him. And he hears him being concerned for his mom. Mom, from this hour, this is your son. Son, this is from now your mom. Who is this man? He forgives those who are crucifying him. And with all the pains that he has, he's concerned about his mom. What is this? Who is this? Why is this? And in Matthew chapter 27, back to Matthew 27, and in verse 34, it says for us, and they gave him wine to drink, mixed with gall, and after tasting it, he was unwilling to drink. This wine that they gave him to drink, it was something that was intended to reduce the senses of the person, to give them a bit of a easing of the pain. And Yeshua was already thirsty. And since he was in the Last Supper with his disciples at night, the night before, and until he came out of there, he hasn't drunk anything. He's passed through the whole night. In the morning, with the beatings and the whips, his body is losing a lot of liquids. And all the morning until the afternoon, all his crucifixion in the sun, in the hot sun of the land of Israel. He's thirsty. And when they offer him to drink something, this thing that could help him, he tastes it and he doesn't want it. And he says, why isn't he taking it? Oh, I would drink it in order to help me and to reduce the pains. But he's also not drinking. He wants to suffer until the end. I don't understand this person. And slowly, slowly, he receives faith. Slowly, slowly, he begins to understand. This man did nothing. Everyone's laughing at him. He's a good man. And in addition to that, then it begins to be dark. In Luke 23, verse 44, it's in all of them. From the hour of 12 until 3 in the afternoon, it was darkness. And they're mocking. This wasn't in the afternoon. This was in the afternoon in Israel, hot sun, but it became suddenly dark. The Father, he could not look at Yeshua's suffering. Yeshua has taken the sins of all of us on himself. It's darkness. What does this darkness cause? What does it cause people to feel? Something supernatural, something that you couldn't understand, something scary. It was scaring them. It got them out of balance. Those same crowds of people that every time they were mocking Yeshua and laughing, save yourself, come down from the cross. Suddenly now they see darkness. And then their hands, they're breasting, they're beating on their breasts like people before the Day of Atonement who pray and they say, we've sinned. And what are they thinking? What is this darkness? Beating their breasts. What's going on? Let's get out of here. It's scary. And he's there on the cross. And he sees all of this. And he hears all this. And he hears the other criminal continuing to laugh at Yeshua. And let's see now what happens. In Luke 23, verse 40 to 43. From verse 39 to 43. And one of the criminals who were hanged there was hurling abuse at him, saying, are you not the Messiah? Save yourself and us. But this stupid guy continues to mock. He doesn't understand anything. But the other answered and rebuked him. That's the criminal we're talking about. Don't you even fear God, since you're under the same sentence of condemnation? For indeed, we are suffering justly, for we are receiving what we deserve for our deeds. But this man has done nothing wrong. King of the Jews, so what? What did he do? Did he collect an army? No. Did he organize a rebellion? No. So it says he's the king of the Jews. But what did he do? He's a good man. He's forgiving them. He's concerned about his mom. He didn't do anything bad. And he was saying, Yeshua, remember me when you come in your kingdom. And now he's receiving faith. Yes, I believe you're the king. You will come to your kingdom. Remember me. Remember me. And then he said to him, truly I say to you, today you shall be with me in paradise. So the grace of God. It's a last chance. Pretty soon, afterwards, a few hours later, when they're already making sure to kill them, and they break their legs so that they would die more quickly in order to take them down from the cross and bury them, in order to finish all this so that the dead bodies wouldn't be left hanging on the crosses on Sabbath, because that would be a cursing of God. And it's forbidden there to be dead bodies still laying on the cross. And so then, because it was Shabbat, after that, you wouldn't be able to take care of it. And you can't leave him hanging there. You need to hurry the death. So you break their legs to hurry the death. So they're really close to the end. The last moment, last chance in life. And he receives salvation. And the second one, he loses out on the opportunity. One next to the other. They both hear the same things. They both see the same things. One receives faith and the other doesn't. And the second one hardens his heart. And all the others as well. The Pharisees and the others who are rejoicing and mocking Yeshua. They lost out on that, missed the chance. And they were lost forever. Because there's only one way to receive forgiveness and atonement. That God, the God of Israel, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, that through one way only that he opened up, and that is through Yeshua the Messiah. Faith in him. We cannot earn this through our good deeds. None of us can. All of us are condemned. All of us have sinned, more or less. It doesn't matter. We all need the grace of God. And that gift we can receive only with hands of faith to believe. No money can buy this. No good deed is good enough to buy this. And so he was saved. He received the faith. And then after that, at the nearing the hour of 3 in the afternoon, what else did he see? This is after Yeshua had already said to him, I will see you today in the Garden of Eden. What else does he see? He hears suddenly at 3, Yeshua beginning to shout, my God, why have you forsaken me? Father, Father, why did you abandon me, my Father in heaven? And it says that he was shouting in a great loud voice. It's Luke 23, verse 46. And Yeshua, crying out with a loud voice, said, Father, into your hands I commit my spirit. And having said this, he breathed his last. Another place it says, Father, Father, why did you leave me? And here's what else he says. Into your hand I commit my spirit. And when he said this, whoosh, his spirit left. He died. That is not a regular death. He sees it, but he's already a believer now. It just strengthens and adds and puts a seal on his faith. Person can't rule over the moment when he can die. Yeshua, yes, had control over it. And he said, it's been given to me by my Father to give my soul, but also to take it back. And so he sees this. And at that same moment, when Yeshua, in that way he dies, what happens? Take a look back to Matthew 27. Take a look at Matthew 27, verse 51. We'll also read 50. 50 and 51. And Yeshua cried out again with a loud voice and yielded up his spirit. And behold, the veil of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom, and the earth shook, and the rocks were split. The resurrection happened after Yeshua rose from the dead. That's what it says in verse 53. But there was an earthquake. They hadn't yet come out of the tombs. After 3 days, on Sunday, that happened. But they rose up from the dead. Or whenever it happens, I'm not going to do that now. But at that same moment, there was an earthquake. Darkness, earthquake. And he sees all of this. And not only does he see it, but also the centurion saw it, who was there. That same Gentile, that Roman centurion. It says for us in Luke chapter 23, verse 47. And now when the centurion saw what had happened, he began praising God, saying, certainly this man was innocent. This man was innocent. He also received faith. He recognizes that it is not something normal. And as it goes on, it says, all the crowds who came together for this spectacle, when they observed what had happened, began to return beating their breasts. And they returned in order instead of receiving faith. Maybe some of them later did. Maybe at the Feast of Weeks, some of them. Maybe some of them received the faith. When the 3,000 came to faith in one day, and later 5,000 came to faith. We don't know. But what is clear is that most of the people of our people, they did not receive the faith. They did not believe in Yeshua. And until today, they don't believe. He said, Jerusalem be destroyed. And it happened in the year 70 AD. Whatever Yeshua said, he's a genuine prophet. What he said happened. And they still don't believe in him. And what about each one of us personally? Are we believing? Yes, everyone who sits here came to the meeting because he believes that Yeshua is the Messiah. But how deep does that faith go? Are there borders? Are there limits? Are there border barriers? I believe, but only to a certain point. Yeshua, I believe in you, but not that. Not here. That's a border. That's too much. I'm not going to give you that. Maybe family members. Yeshua says, whoever doesn't hate his father and mother and his children, even himself more, can't be my disciple. The God of love, who calls us to love. But if there is something that comes between us and him, we're called to choose him. Maybe family members. Or maybe money. The rich man, Yeshua told him, go sell everything. I'm not going to get all those stories now, but he didn't do it. He had a lot of riches, and that was his border. That was his limit. This, no. Maybe we have these kind of borders. Yeshua, I believe in you, but only to a certain point. And if you do this, I'm not going to receive it. Oh, God forbid we be in a war. And we've seen already two situations where we saw it up close, where soldiers fell, died, and we saw a response that gave glory, these response of the parents. God gave and God took away. May the name of the Lord be praised. They passed the test, this test of fire. Just like Job, who didn't understand why, but he passed the test. Do we say, God, up to this point, if you do that, then I'm not going to be here anymore for you. That's too much. I'll draw a line. Certainly it hurts. Lord, don't let me be tempted. Don't bring me into temptation, Lord. But Lord, to know if we believe that in every trial that God gives, he gives the way out. He will give the grace not to test us beyond our ability. There's a promise like that. And if I believe in it, and in conclusion, Yeshua calls us, let's do it like this. This criminal came to faith because of what he saw, the testimony that he saw and heard about Yeshua, the testimony, how Yeshua behaved. That spoke to this criminal. And Yeshua calls us. When he sent his disciples and he spoke to them in the last chapter of Matthew, he said, you are my witnesses. You'll be my witnesses in Jerusalem and Judea and Samaria until the ends of the earth. So we're called to be witnesses, not just those who pass out literature. And thank God for those who, every good fruit that came out of giving out literature, that's not the point now, but he calls us in our lives to be his testimony. Our behavior, how do I speak, how do I respond, to be his witnesses. And that you can do only when the Holy Spirit is within us and we let him work on our lives. We're not perfect like Yeshua, but to let him work and to go forward and to become into the image of Yeshua, like it says, from glory to glory. to be transformed into that image. And we don't want a hard heart like the other criminal had, or like the leadership had, or like the crowds had. We don't want a hard heart. But in every area and everything, God loves us. And when he speaks to us, and when he puts his finger on some area in our lives, just like that rich man, it says that Yeshua loved him. It says Yeshua loved him. When he put his finger, though, on that riches, it wasn't in order to break him. It was in order to say him, that's the point in your life. You want to inherit the kingdom of heaven? But this riches, this is your idol. Leave it. Walk away from it. Give it to the poor. Come follow after me. I don't know what thoughts he had, but that was the inheritance from his parents, from his grandparents. That's his heritage. That's our glory. That's our confidence, our security. Certainly there was confidence and security in that money. That was the border. That was the limit for him. We don't want to have a hard heart. When God puts his finger on something in our lives, we need to say to God, God, help me. I'm going to give you this thing. I'm reminded of Job, where God took everything, but then God returned everything back to him, double. Imagining what would have happened if the rich man would have given up of everything. Maybe it was just a trial. Maybe he wouldn't have been left without anything. God would have taken care of him. And in the end, two last things, the importance of choice, our choice. We are responsible to choose. Remember that. We have freedom. God gave us the freedom of choice to each one of us. And we're responsible over the results afterwards. If we've chosen not well, badly, so the results will be bad. Damages. What do we choose? Let's use our free choice to choose right. I remember a righteous man, a good man, a righteous man. His name was Lot. He and Abraham stood. Their shepherds were fighting, and we needed to separate from each other. They were too heavy, too big. And Abraham told him, choose. You choose, Lot. You go here, north, the direction of Samaria, and I'll go right, to the south, to Beersheba. If you go south, I'll go north. He didn't go here or there. He went east. He went down to the Jordan Valley, the Green Valley. Sodom and Gomorrah looked green, looked nice, but there was sin there. And that was his choice. And then afterwards, he lost everything. He was a righteous man, and when those angels came, he was hospitable to them. He protected them. He didn't let the crowds touch them, those angels. But still, there was great damage to him. He left with only his 2 daughters. All the rest left. Because the Word of God calls him a righteous man, he'll be in heaven. But afterwards, he drinks wine. He's sad. He's frustrated with his life. He thinks, what did I do? How did I get to this place in my life? It could have been different. So we have choices that we make. Let's not walk according to the eyes of flesh, according to the desires, according to what our soul wants. Many times, what our soul wants and what our flesh wants, these are not good things for us usually. Yeshua wants to give us good. He loves us. And so the importance of our choice. And the last thing is this declaration of faith, our declaration of faith. This criminal declared his faith in Yeshua. He said, this man didn't do any evil. And he calls him Lord. He recognizes that Yeshua is the king. Remember me when you come to your kingdom. That's a declaration of his faith. Let's look in James. It's an important point in James, where Yeshua, who is in heaven at the right hand of the Father, and uses our declaration of faith. He listens to what we say and uses it before God. He can take our declaration of faith before our Father in heaven. Look in Hebrews chapter 3, verse 1. Hebrews 3, verse 1. Therefore, holy brethren, partakers of a heavenly calling, consider Yeshua the high apostle and high priest of our confession. The high priest of our confession, our declaration of faith. Yeshua is the high priest. What did the high priest do? They take the offerings, they take those sacrifices, and they bring them to God. Yeshua is our high priest. He takes our declaration, our confession, and he brings it before the Father. And I remember Derek Prince, when his wife, Yut, his second wife, Ruth, and she died. I was at the funeral. It was really hard. He was older than her. He loved her. And he really couldn't imagine that she would die before him, but that she would take care of him. He was needing help already. He was dependent on her, and he stood there with tears and with a choking voice. He declared, God never makes any mistakes. God is always right. God is always right. That was a declaration of his faith. And God took her. Yeshua took her. She was precious. What do we declare? Where is God? Why isn't he helping us? I don't understand it. I don't want this. I don't agree with this. I kick it. The people of Israel in the desert, when there was no water, all kinds of things, they were always complaining. They had no declaration of faith. God brought us here to kill us. That's what they said. Now we're in the story of the Exodus from Egypt now. The declaration of faith. Take a look also in Hebrews chapter 4, verse 14. And therefore, Hebrews 4:14. Therefore, since we have a great high priest who has passed through the heavens, Yeshua the Son of God, let us hold fast our confession. To hold fast. There will be trials. There will be difficulties. Maybe there'll be persecutions. We've had persecutions. It can come back. Well, we have to pay a price. Or maybe in our personal life, when there's difficulties or others, but to hold on, hold fast to faith, and to declare that faith, to say it. God, I believe in you. He is the high priest of our confession. And last place, in Hebrews chapter 10, verse 23. Hebrews 10, verse 23. Let us hold fast the confession of our hope without wavering, for he who promised is faithful. And also verse 24. And let us consider how to stimulate one another to love and good deeds. Not holding on, but rather holding on in faith. So the advantages of being together, so we can encourage one another, and especially when we live in these end times, and there's a lot of pressure, a lot of trials, a lot of temptations, a lot of sin, a lot of rebellion. How important it is to strengthen and encourage one another through the faith, in the way of faith. So let's let these words now touch our hearts this day. And let's prepare ourselves for the Lord's Supper.